Welcome to The Buzz. I'm Christopher Conover. This week, reducing waste. The Buzz is beginning a 3-part monthly series this week, taking a look at the 3 R's that many who are Gen X or younger were taught about: reduce, reuse, recycle. Joining me to start off the show this week is our producer, Zach Ziegler. And Zach, you've got a little surprise for me, so you say, to start things off. And from here, my script goes blank.
Yeah, so I wanted to take you back as we've been talking about this topic. It was hammered into the heads of especially people my age, it seemed, in the early 90s. And that was right in my formative years. So you know how anytime you hear something a lot when you're in that 8 to 10 age range, it gets stuck in your head forever?
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's what happened with this. So I am just going to put you smack dab into my world as we've been working on this series. Go ahead and click on the web browser on that and hit play on the YouTube video I preloaded for you.
All right, here we go.
Reuse and close the loop. You can close the loop.
Yeah, this has been playing in my head on a loop.
Well, and now, no doubt, it's going to be in my head and everyone else's for, well, at least the rest of the show. In my case, probably the rest of the week.
Yeah, but this actually, it illustrates a point about these 3 items that we're talking about with reduce, reuse, recycle. I went back to rewatch this video, and so
after it was stuck in your head.
Yes, repeatedly. I hoped I could get it out of there, but so much of the time when we talk about those 3, we see a lot of stuff. And if you watch the video, anyone else who's that bold can go out there and find it. You see a lot about the stuff that we are throwing in trash cans. And that's something we're going to try and steer away from on these episodes.
All right. So we'll focus on unique attempts to reduce our consumption this week. Zach has our first interview. He spoke with Justin Kaser. He's the Chief Sustainability Officer at Sprouts Grocery Stores. And they spoke about the company's decision to quit offering free single-use plastic bags.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to one of our core values of care for the environment and our communities. We found that one of the biggest and most tangible impacts that retail grocery in general has on our environment is the distribution of single-use plastic and paper bags. So understanding that is a major impact and something that we can control in partnership with our customers. In 2023, we decided to eliminate single-use plastic and paper bags and really try to encourage customers to bring in their own reusable bags. We didn't eliminate bags entirely. We do offer a variety of reusable bags. The most cost-effective one is 10 cents a piece, which can be used over 125 times, incorporates recycled content into that bag. So we feel like it's a really good option. If you still need to purchase a bag, that we have an affordable option available to customers, or all the way up to more durable, higher end cloth bags.
So like many Arizonans, I routinely escape the heat by going to the beach in Southern California for vacation. When I was there not too long ago, I was in a Ralph's, which, for Arizonans, that's the same as a Fry's. And they had this same policy there, but I've noticed the Fry's here in Arizona don't have it. Is this something that maybe other companies do outside of Arizona?
There are a few other retailers who have made commitments and actually implemented single-use bag removal. What we've seen is pretty good adoption. Overwhelmingly, the customer responses have been positive. As more than 70% of transactions, customers are bringing in their own reusable bags, or they're not using a bag at all. If you're just buying a gallon of milk and that's all you're going in for, a lot of times just by default, you're going to put it in a plastic bag. So we've really significantly reduced the amount of bags that we put out into the marketplace. If we can keep bags from floating around our streets or neighborhoods, I think that's much better. And then the bags that we do have available for the affordable, 10 cents, they are recyclable back in our stores.
So you mentioned some pretty high success rate numbers there. I mean, do you have any idea how many plastic bags this has cut back on the use of?
Around 160 to 200 million single-use bags. The more that we can encourage, reuse, the prevention of that bag is the most important thing, and having options. If a reusable bag is necessary, and that we have good affordable options is important for us and our customers.
So we're talking about, the bags that are at the checkout lanes, but that doesn't necessarily count for the bags that are used for, produce, meat. How does that plastic bag usage compare to what you were going through before making the change? And is there much that can be done to limit those other bags' use?
Yeah, I think it's a phased approach. I think the checkout bags is a logical, first step. Just it's kind of a mind shift that needs to happen, and ensuring that you have reusable bags in your car. There's so much of a take, make, waste mentality, I think, in our culture in general. So like, this is a good first step, and there are other options out there for reusable bulk bags, reusable produce bags, which we do offer in our stores, and they're displayed in those departments. So we do want to encourage customers to bring in their own reusable produce bags. They are out there, and that's another way that they can help to prevent the distribution of more single-use plastic out there.
I worked at a couple of stores that sold groceries and some other stuff back when I was in college, and there was a lot of that thin, hard to recycle plastic going out the front door in the form of these bags, but there was, it seemed like, just as much, if not more, coming in the back door as far as what was holding together boxes and pallets of goods. Now, your job is to worry about sustainability for Sprouts. Is there much that, either has been done, since what I'm talking about was, 20 years ago, or that can be done on that front?
Yeah, as far as plastics generated in the stores, most all of our stores have recycling of the harder plastics. The softer plastics like shrink wrap, product needs to come in and it needs to be on a pallet and it has to be stapled. So it's often shrink wrapped with a stretchable film. So we capture that as well. That's the same program that customers can bring back their grocery bags and bread bags and case over wrap. All those things can be dropped off at the front of our stores, but we're also collecting these types of flexible films in the back of our stores as well. And they're combined and then shipped back to our distribution centers, where we recycle those materials with Trex, who makes kind of a durable manufactured plastic lumber. And then we also look at other opportunities in our supply chain, such as a lot of our leafy greens and broccoli and the like come in like wax cardboard boxes. So we looked at what are some alternatives for that, because that's not recyclable because of the wax film that it has. So another alternative is going to reusable plastic containers. So, that's something that we've tested and are launching this year to help remove all that material from our supply chain and go to a reusable option. We're always looking at different areas within the value chain, from where our products come from, how it's distributed, how it's packaged in-house, or how it leaves our store, or how our customers are going to interact with those materials, to make sure that, we're doing the best that we can to make sure that those materials kind of have a second life or a third or fourth life. It's definitely like a systematic approach that we take to how we manage supplies and materials within our business.
Justin, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That was Justin Caster, the Chief Sustainability Officer at Sprouts Grocery Store, speaking with the Buzz producer, Zach Ziegler. Perhaps the area that Arizonans hear most about when it comes to reducing consumption is water. 72% of Arizona's water consumption goes to agriculture. So what's being done to reduce that number? We spoke with Ethan Orr. He's the Agricultural Education, Technology, and Innovation Specialist at the University of Arizona Cooperative Extension.
Well, Christopher, one thing I really should start out with, if you look historically as a state, we actually use less water now than we did in 1962, even though we have three times the population and the value of our ag production is 50% more. And the reason we've been able to do that is by investing in ourselves. We have better conveyance, basically cement lining and then putting solar panels over canals, better crops. The U of A has done a lot of research into a new crop, Waiuli, that has a lot of opportunity, and better watering systems, and then with Governor Babbitt and the AMAs. And so this program started with a $30 million grant through the governor's office, through the Inflation Reduction Act last February. And what we've done with it is we took that and we've given 23 million and we've invested in the farmers, and those farmers have matched it with 16.6 million of themselves, 42% of the project cost. The rest we put into research. And just by changing the watering systems, changing from a flood irrigation to a center pivot or a drip system, we have managed just this year, and so this is an annual savings, to conserve 36,418 acre feet. To put that in context for the listeners, that is 12 times the size of Tempe Town Lake. The average Tucsonan uses 82 gallons a day. And so that is over 400,000 people in Tucson drink every year, three-fourths of our city, just with that small investment. Last year, the legislature funded us an additional 15 million, and they're looking at funding some more. And so this is just the beginning of the water savings that we can create.
People, again, who are not necessarily part of the agricultural industry will say, well, wait a minute. In order to grow plants, at least the ones on my back porch, we have to have water. Is there a point where we're going to get a diminishing return? We're saving water, but we're not growing as much agriculture, which then has an economic role on it that hits everybody.
You hit a really good point. There's a couple things going in play. The first are externalities. The last thing you want to do is start fallowing field, because if you look at what's happening in Pinal County, where the ag allocation has gone to zero for irrigated water, if you don't take care of that land, you create dust storms, exacerbate the haboobs, and then you also create these heat island effects. The other thing that's so important is, if you look at it, agriculture has used a large percentage of the water, but following the Pareto principle, by investing in that sector, it's where you're going to get your cheapest and best savings. So for example, with this program, and I'm extraordinarily proud of this, when you look at some of the other programs and numbers, for the 3-year program, my cost per acre foot saved, the public sector cost, is $209 an acre foot. Now, to put that in context, if I was going to do desalinization out of the Sea of Cortez, which was an idea that we were talking about just a year ago, that's going to cost me $3,000 an acre foot. So all of this cost, in addition to saving so much water, we're doing it in the most cost-effective way. And I think that creates a bridge for our civilization, for our state, to really figure out what we're going to do long term.
In looking at crops, and again, from the, for lack of a better term, layperson's view, we heard, especially last year, a lot about alfalfa and how water intensive it is. We hear a lot about some of the leafy greens grown in Yuma and the Imperial Valley, which obviously is California, but it's right there, and Colorado River water is involved. Do we need to make a change on some of the things that we're growing in Arizona? Or can technology and some of the programs that you're running reduce the water usage enough that we can continue to grow those things?
I think in some cases we have to continue to grow those things. 80% of the alfalfa in the state ends up consumed by Arizonans in the form of milk. And the reason we grow it is it has very high margins, but it's not just water intensive. You're getting 10 to 12 cuttings off of that. One of the systems we put in Pinal County, the gentleman is double cropping corn, which means that you can grow a thing of corn and then grow it again in the same season. Tucson's the only place outside of Egypt that we can triple crop wheat. And so it's not just about water, it's about soil and sun and reducing the carbon footprint of the transportation of those goods. And we are getting better. I mean, they already laser level, they already use drones. Agriculture is about high technology. The biggest issue that we had to help Yuma with was broadband technology last year. But we can do better. I mean, that's why I'm really appreciative of these cropping systems, because with a very small amount, we have saved more water than any of these urban ideas, but it also gives us the impetus and I believe credibility to talk about urban solutions. How do we do water calming, that water coming off the Sky Islands into the Tucson alluvial layer? How do we slow that water down to generate more water recharge? How do we capture every drop? And this is an ethos that I have found in our agriculture community. It's not just capturing every drop, it's capturing every drop and using it more than once.
So 2050 rolls along. Hopefully we're all retired and enjoying our time, with our families and travel and all of those things. Are we still doing agriculture, do you think?
Absolutely. And one of the reasons I like this program, we're spending a lot on research. And so one of the things that I've driven this program with, because if you look at where ancient civilizations have failed, look at their cropping systems, like in Mesopotamia, and you see the salinity going up and you see large canal infrastructures falling apart. And so I'm not trying to create generational problems by solving a short-term issue. So our research is focused on that salinity, improving crop yields. And so we're saving water, but we're also creating a healthier soil biome. And we're seeing, particularly in cotton, our crop yields go up with these systems, which is, again, very counterintuitive. So I think that 2050, what does it look like? That's up to us. In fact, I was thinking about this with where we are in this perceived crisis. One, you never make a good decision in the crisis. If I'm lost in the forest, do I start running faster? Do I yell louder? Do I break down and cry? Or do I pull out a map and calm myself and figure out what I'm doing? And I think about that's where we are. We're in a crisis. But what do we do to resolve it? And I think science, research, and technology, and the iterative science, studying these crops and studying how we do better.
It sounds like all of these programs, the extension is supporting and helping out, but be it the Gila River Indian community or the farmers themselves, they want to do this. This is not a university coming in telling somebody how to do something and they do it grudgingly. They seem to be almost seeking the knowledge out. Is that a good assessment?
Very much so. The first tranche of money, the numbers that I mentioned, there were 62 projects across the state. Every farmer worked with us, partnered us. I have a team of about 12 scientists. And in addition to just putting in the system, we're going in and we're working through, again, applied science and research, helping them on cropping decisions, soil decisions. These are not dumb people, and these are people that really want to preserve and conserve the land. And so they're doing the absolute best they can to grow crops under difficult conditions. But no one wants to waste water. And the farmers, when given the opportunity to save water, will. Additionally, even the pressure, it's the pressure of the head gate. By moving from an irrigated to a well water, you have a lower pressure. So these systems help the farmers in Pinal County, where we've saved over 5,000 acre feet a year. We've helped them with that capital cost to make the transition going from irrigated to well water, because you don't have enough pressure. So all of those farms were able to stay in business, prevent these giant dust storms and heat and haboobs, but then also grow crop with much, much less water.
That was Ethan Orr with the UA Cooperative Extension. You're listening to The Buzz. After the break, we'll see if you can get the recycling and reducing song out of your head, and we'll talk about conserving the fossil fuels used to generate electricity. Stay with us.
I'm Rachel Martin. You probably know how interview podcasts with famous people usually go. There's a host, a guest, and a light Q&A. But on Wildcard, we have ripped up the typical script. It's a new podcast from NPR where I invite actors, artists, and comedians to play a game using a special deck of cards to talk about some of life's biggest questions. Listen to Wildcard wherever you get your podcasts, only from NPR.
Welcome back to The Buzz. I'm Christopher Conover. This week, we're looking at efforts to reduce our use of finite resources so we pollute less. Tucson Electric Power recently rolled out a new campaign aimed at reducing the company's greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels by 80% in the next 10 years. The campaign centers on encouraging customers to use less electricity during peak usage hours. To learn more about efforts to conserve the fuel that gets turned into electricity, we spoke with TEP spokesperson Joseph Barrios.
We have a couple of goals that we're working on right now. One is a specific goal that's achieving an 80% reduction in carbon emissions by 2035. And that's part of a formal plan that we file with the Arizona Corporation Commission every year called our Integrated Resource Plan. So that plan takes a look, it looks forward 15 years. And that plan is something specific, something that we think we can actually achieve within that time frame. The other goal is a little bit harder, and that's our reduction of emissions to essentially zero by 2050. That is an aspirational goal, and truth be told, we don't know exactly how we're going to get there, so we are looking to our customers for help.
One of the big things it seems, especially at this time of year, we often hear about when it comes to getting customers to reduce is those peak hours between 3 and 7 p.m. Why do we really need people to reduce usage in those peak hours?
Really, there's a number of different reasons, but for customers, we'll start with the simplest things. One, when you use less energy during those peak hours, that improves reliability for everyone who's on the grid. As you can imagine, those peak hours between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. during the summer, it's hot outside, temperatures are high, everyone is counting on their air conditioning systems the most. That means the demand for energy is highest during those times. So anything we can do to reduce that usage during that time, that reduces strain on the grid. That's why we have a number of different programs and really pricing plans for customers who have the flexibility to do that. If they can shift some of that energy usage off peak, ultimately it costs less for us to purchase that power, which we always need to do during the summer to satisfy those peak energy demands.
What are some things we can do to reduce energy? Because, of course, between 3 and 7, that's when everybody's getting home. If you've had your air conditioner at a higher temperature during the day, maybe at 80 while you were gone, you start cooling it off. What are some other things people can do to reduce energy during those peak hours?
Really, that's a big question because there are lots of options for customers, and they range from very simple things, no cost, low cost things you can do immediately to reduce your energy usage, all the way through. We have rebate programs for customers who are in a position to replace their air conditioning system with a new, more efficient air conditioning system. The real simple things that don't require any investment, and it's as simple as playing with your thermostat. The Department of Energy recommends that you set your thermostat at 78 degrees. And if you can bump that up by a few degrees, you can realize some real energy savings. If you have an oscillating fan or a ceiling fan, use that instead of trying to cool your entire home. You can use a fan and simply cool yourself. And the other very basic thing, if you have window blinds or coverings, use them, because when you let the sunshine in, you're also letting the heat in. But along with those simple things, we do have a number of different programs that they can participate in. There are tune-ups that they can have performed on their air conditioning system to reduce usage. They may invest in a smart thermostat, which we offer on our website at a discounted price. A smart thermostat. We also have a smart rewards program where we work directly with customers who have a smart thermostat. And by volunteering to participate in that program, it's not mandatory, we can essentially adjust your thermostat during high heat events to try and reduce that on-peak usage.
So TEP, as we've just talked about, has a lot of programs aimed at reducing electric consumption over time and over the years. Zero Hero is the latest, but there have been others. You guys have given out free energy efficient light bulbs, subsidized Energy Star appliances, planted trees to shade homes. That would seem in some ways to harm TEP's business model, because at the end of the day, your company trying to make money, the more electricity gets used, the more money you make. So for investors, how do you balance those things?
Well, we know that customers who participate in these programs, specifically in those rebate programs that help them to use less energy, they like these programs. They participate in them when they can. And in that way, we're like every company out there. We want our customers to be happy. We know they're counting on our service. We also know that during the summertime, when their bills go up, they would like to see those bills go down. And so we want to help them do that if we can.
You all announced recently some new solar projects and wind projects that will be big enough to reduce or produce power for about 11,000 homes. A lot of those projects come with a lot of battery storage, which is something that we are hearing more and more about. How important is it finding a way to store that green energy when it comes to lowering emissions and maybe just keeping the grid running?
One of the things that we talk about through the Net Zero Hero program is working with customers and helping them find ways that they can shift their energy usage. Now that requires a little bit of flexibility. One of the things that we're working toward is being able to expand those storage resources so that during the day when solar energy, for example, is most plentiful, we can store that and then deploy it later in the day when demand is highest. Because, for example, solar production doesn't match up with energy usage. Solar production occurs earlier in the day. The highest energy usage comes later in the day. So really adopting a greater use of storage resources, it's very important because while the sun is somewhat predictable, wind resources, which are great in the evening and overnight, are also not exactly predictable. We don't really know when those wind resources are going to produce. So having those storage resources will allow us to shift that clean energy to a time when customers really need it.
I'm sure somebody hearing this is going to say, great, you want more green energy, more solar, rooftop solar, popular and gaining popularity. It seems like every time I walk through my neighborhood, somebody else is putting solar on the roof. But I'm sure somebody is going to say, well, then why not make net metering a better deal for customers if that's the ultimate goal?
Rooftop solar, it's an important part of our energy mix. Like energy efficiency programs, customers really like them, and we work with them all the time as they install their systems. I think right now we have something on the order of 10% of our customers have their own rooftop solar system. Very few customers have their own storage systems. They're still counting on us during the day when it's hot, overnight, obviously, to keep their lights on. And so we think that the incentives available to them now are fair. Part of a long discussion and debate before the Arizona Corporation Commission and with local installers, customers, and other parties. What we've seen is a continual increase. In fact, I think last year was another record year for rooftop solar installations. We see plenty of customers who are still signing up, and we're happy to work with them.
All right. Well, thanks for inviting us downtown.
Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it.
That was Tucson Electric Power's Joseph Barrios. And that's the buzz for this week. Tune in next week as we look at the cuts in next year's state budget, and we promise no catchy jingles. You can find all our episodes online at azpm.org and subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcast. Just search for The Buzz Arizona. We're also on the NPR app. Zach Ziegler is our producer with production help from Desiree Tucker. Our music is by Enter the Haggis. I'm Christopher Conover. Thanks for listening.
AZPM's original productions are made possible in part by the Community Service Grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org.